All right, we are moving into our units on circles. Okay, so we are talking about angles, central angles, the arcs that they make. So these might be new words, new terms that you haven't heard before, but it's actually pretty simple. So for numbers 1 through 4, it's asking us if an angle is given, name the arc that it makes. If an arc is given, name its central angle. Okay, well, first of all, let's actually label what is an arc and what is a central angle. Okay, well, a central angle is when it goes to the center of the circle, and I know that might not be totally center. Okay, so this right here, draw an arrow to that. That is our central angle. Oftentimes you'll see the angle symbol used. Okay, and then we have the arc. Okay, so the arc is almost like that perimeter of the circle. Okay, so that right there is our arc that corresponds with that central angle. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at numbers 1 through 4. If an angle is given, name the arc it makes. If an arc is given, name its central angle. Okay, so it's giving us arc NM. Okay, so let's go ahead and find NM. Now, there's a couple different ways you can look at this. You can say, okay, I can go straight from N to M, or I can go from N all the way around to M. Okay, the reason that this NM is the shorter version, because if it wanted the longer one, it would have included K or L. It would have been NKM. Okay, meaning we would go through that point and end at M. So we're starting at N and ending at M. Okay, so what is the angle that corresponds with that arc? We can see it's this angle right here. So we know angle 1. Okay, and that's all that it's asking us to do. Okay, so now let's look at number 2. So it's giving us angle 2. So we're going to look at angle 2. Okay, and what is the arc that it creates? Okay, think, go straight out from that angle. What are those two endpoints? So we see S and T are those two endpoints of that angle. So we know that we can write this as ST with our arc symbol above, or you could even write it as TS, arc symbol above. Okay, making sure that you do not include U or R because it's the smaller arc, not the bigger arc. Okay. Number 3. Now, look at the words that it's using here. This says major arc for angle 2. Okay, so we're looking at angle 2, but we're finding the major arc for angle 2. So the minor arcs are when it's right here and here, still the same endpoints. Minor means the smaller arc. Major would be the larger one. Okay, so this time we still have the same endpoints, V and W. But since it's the major arc, we're going to go all the way around, pass through U, pass through X, and end at W. Okay, now there's a couple different ways we could write this. We could write this arc as starting with V. We can have U in the middle and ending at W, so VUW with our arc symbol on top. Or we could again start with V, have X in the middle, so VXW, arc on top. Or we could start with W, have X in the middle, end with V, same thing. Or start with W and have U in the middle and end with V. And there we go. Any one of those answers is correct because that represents, sorry, I forgot that word for a second, represents the major arc. Okay, so it still has the same endpoints that are creating that angle 2, but this time it's the big arc, the one that goes all the way around. Okay, number 4. So this time it's giving us arc CE. Okay, notice we only have 2 letters in here, so it's going to be that minor arc, the smaller one. So just from C to E. Okay, so what is the angle that corresponds with these 2 endpoints? So if we go straight down to the middle, we see that it's angle 3. And we write that as angle 3. Beautiful. Okay, so numbers 1 through 4, we were simply naming the angles that correspond with the arcs and vice versa. In numbers 5 through 10, it's telling us, find the measure of the arc or central angle indicated. Assume that lines which appear to be diameters are actual diameters. Okay, if we don't remember what diameters are, let's go ahead and define that word. Okay, diameters are, I don't want to say half the circle, but half, yeah, we'll say half the circle, and I'll draw a little picture to see what I mean. So a diameter is straight from one side to the other side of the circle. Okay, so that's our diameter measure right there in between. Okay, so it kind of cuts the circle in half. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at number 5. So it's asking us to find the measure of angle UQR. Okay, first of all, let's identify what angle it's actually wanting us to find. Okay, so find U first. It's right here, UQR. Okay, so UQR, that would be this angle right there. It is that whole angle measure. Okay, now there's a couple ways we can do this. So one thing we need to write on our paper. Let's make this note over here. The angle measure is congruent or equal to the arc measure. Meaning if the angle is, say, 50 degrees, then the arc is also 50 degrees. It's corresponding arc. Okay, so let's go ahead and look back at number 5. So I can see that it's giving me a couple arc measures and angle measure here. So since I'm looking for an actual angle measure, I'm just going to rewrite these arc measures as angle measures. Okay, so I see 110, which is that angle right there. I see 50, which is that angle right there. 47 is already an angle, so we'll keep that as an angle. And then we see part of the whole purple angle we're looking for is 113. Okay, so really, we're just missing this little part right there, which we'll label as X for now. Okay, so another note we need to make on our paper. Okay, so we'll say this is a starred note and another starred note right here. Just like when we were talking about triangles always being 180 degrees, quadrilaterals are always 180 degrees, a circle always adds to 360 degrees. Okay, think like if you are a skateboarder, okay, if you're doing a 360 or any kind of trick, you can do that. Okay, that means you're turning in a full circle. Okay, so let's go ahead and use what we know to find this little piece in order to find the whole purple piece, right? Okay, so what we can do is we can add up all of the angle measures that it actually gives us. Okay, so we're going to do that first. Okay, so we're going to add up all the angle measures it gives us. So we have 113 plus 110 plus 50 plus 47. And what is this going to be? Let me grab my calculator. Okay, so let's go ahead. 113 plus 110 plus 50 plus 47, and we get 320. Okay, well if all of that added together is 320, now we just take the whole circle, 360, minus 320, and we get 40 degrees. Meaning, this little x right here that we just found is 40 degrees. Now, that's not the angle we were looking for. That would be angle UQV, looks like, yeah, UQV. We're looking for UQR. Okay, so now all we have to do is we take 40 plus 113 that it gave us, 40 plus 113, and that's going to be 153 degrees. Okay, so how we write this as our final answer, the measure of angle UQR equals 153 degrees. And there's our answer. Okay, beautiful. Alrighty, I know we don't have a ton of room in number 6, that's okay. Alright, so we're looking for, first identify what it is we're actually trying to find the measure for. We're trying to find the measure of arc FHJ. So we have F, and it's going through H and ending at J. So FHJ. All right. Okay, so a few things that we're given here. All right. So we have, first thing I'm going to do is turn my, since I'm looking for an arc, I want to turn my angle measures into arc measures. Okay, well I have 65 for this arc, or angle, excuse me, so that means that's also 65, which means we're still looking for this whole piece right here. Okay, well, there's a simple rule and a nice little trick that we can use to find this angle. Yep. Okay, so we see how these lines create this perfect X right here. Okay, these are what we call vertical angles, and we'll talk about this more, but I want you to put it on your paper. Vertical angles. Okay, the reason we want to know vertical angles is because they equal each other. Okay, meaning this angle and that angle, they're vertical angles, they're across from each other, they equal each other. So if that's 65, that's also 65. Okay, and if that angle is 65, we know that arc is 65. Okay, alrighty, so now all we're really missing is this piece of our arc right there. Okay, so what we can do now is we can use this half of the circle. So now imagine I'm cutting this circle in half. Well, if a whole circle is 360 degrees, how much, in fact, let me write this right there so it kind of splits up those notes. Okay, cool. How much is half a circle if we're cutting it in half? Well, 360 divided by 2 is 180. Okay, so we know that half of this circle has to equal 180. So 65 plus 60 plus this has to equal 180. Okay, well, let's go ahead and just add up those numbers that it gives us. But instead of using the whole circle, we're going to use half the circle this time. Okay, so I have 60 plus 65 that it gives me, and that's going to give me 125. Okay, I'm running out of room, that's okay. And now, if those two are 125, that means 180 minus 125 is going to give us that guy. So now we just take 180 minus 125, and we get 55. Okay, so we know that this guy is 55 degrees. Again, that's not the whole thing we were looking for. That just helps us. We're looking for the entire purple piece. Okay, so the entire purple piece is going to be 65 plus 55 plus 60 plus 65. Okay, so let's go ahead and just add that up. So we have 65 plus 55 plus 60 plus 65. And I know that the measure of that entire arc, so arc FHJ, is equal to 245 degrees. I know I didn't have a ton of room to write all that out. That's okay. Okay, so that's the answer for number 6. Okay, the measure of angle, or excuse me, arc FHJ, 245 degrees. Okay, awesome. Let's try it again. Okay, we're looking for the arc, the measure of arc FDB. So it starts at F, goes through D, ends at B. So we're looking for this whole arc measure right there. Okay, awesome job. So a few things that we see. It's giving us 54 degrees. It's giving us 51 degrees in those arcs. We need these two missing arcs right here. Okay, label that as X and that is X as well, because we don't know those. We need those to find the whole arc. Okay, well again, I'm going to split this circle in half, because if I have two pieces of this half, I can find the third. Remember, half a circle is 180 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add up the two angles that it gives me, 54 plus 51. And that is going to be 105. Okay, remember, we're not worrying about this piece right over here. We're not worrying about that half of the circle at all. Okay, we're just adding these two guys up, 105. Then we're going to take the whole half circle, 180, subtract that piece, 105. 105, 180 minus 105 gives us 75. Okay, so I know that this guy right here is 75 degrees. Well, how does that help us? We still are looking for this guy over here. Well, remember, if that's 75, its angle is 75, and look, these guys create that X that we're looking for, which means the angle across from it is also 75 because it's a vertical angle, which means this arc is also 75. And look at that. Vertical angles again. So whenever they create that X and they're across from each other, they create that vertical angle. Okay, alrighty. So let's go ahead and add all of these pieces of our arcs up. We have 75 plus 54 plus 51 plus 75. And I'll write that out this time because we have room. 75 plus 54 plus 51 plus 75. Okay, and you can put this all into a calculator if you want. 75 plus 54 plus 51 plus 75. And we get, in fact, let's write this out how it wants. The measure of arc FDB is equal to 255 degrees. And there we go. Okay, let's do number 8. Okay, what we're actually looking for, we're trying to find the measure of angle UZX. Okay, so this time it's an angle. We're starting at U, going to Z, and ending at X. Ooh, okay, so UZX. Awesome. Alrighty. Okay, so we see that it gives us this part of the purple angle we're looking for. Make sure I did that right. Yep, UZX. But then it actually gives us that measure of our arc. Okay, so we know that if the arc measures 85, that angle is also 85. And guess what? That's both pieces that we need. Okay, so I have 64 plus 85. This guy's kind of an easier example. 64 plus 85 is going to give me 149. So we know that the measure of angle UZX is equal to 149 degrees. And there we go. Okay, 2 more examples. Let's look at number 9. Okay, so we're trying to find the measure of arc GJH. Okay, starting at G, going through J, ending at H. So again, this is a big arc all the way around. Okay, so we're gonna do what we've been doing. Okay, I have 2 pieces of the pie, and I can find the third piece as long as they cut it straight in half, right? Which it does. Well, half of my circle is 180 degrees, remember? Okay, so I'm going to add up the two angles that it gives me, 72 plus 40. Okay, and in fact, let's remember that if this is 72, that's also 72. That's 40. That's where we're adding these things up. 72 plus 40 is going to give me 112. Okay, well, if that piece of my half of the pie, circle, whatever you want to think of it, is 112, that would mean I'd have to take 180, take away that piece of 112, and that would give me my third piece. Okay, so I have 180 minus 112. 180 minus 112. And that gives me 68 degrees. Okay, so we know that this guy has to be 68. Okay, beautiful. Now, this one's a little tricky to see. Is there a vertical angle that can help me? Okay, well, we're looking for this angle, or this arc right here, but you see how this creates the x? And this whole angle is going to be equal to that whole angle that we need, right? We're looking for this angle, which is going to give us that arc. Okay, well, that's easy. We can just take 40 plus 68. Okay, so 40 plus 68 is going to give me that whole angle right there. Okay, and that means it's 108 degrees. Okay, well, if this whole thing is 108 degrees, that whole angle, that means the whole other side is 108 degrees, which means the arc is 108 degrees. Woo! Now we have all the pieces of the entire purple arc that we're looking for. So 108 plus 72 plus 40 plus 68, or you could have done the 108, doesn't matter. Okay, but make sure not to count it twice. Okay, so we have 108 plus 72 plus 40 plus 68. Let's go ahead and add all this up. 108 plus 72 plus 40 plus 68. We get 288. So the measure of arc GJH equals 288 degrees. And there we go. Okay, let's do one more example. We are finding the measure of angle YZW. Okay, so it starts at Y, goes to Z, and then goes to W. So we're looking for this angle right here. Okay, alrighty. So, it doesn't give me any arcs, any angles. It's going to help me, but again, it's giving us two pieces of this whole half of the triangle, or excuse me, circle. Okay, so if we have two of the pieces, we can find that third one right there, which is part of the angle we're looking for. Okay, so we're going to take 62 plus 70. Okay, add those together. And I get 132. Okay, well, again, if this half of the circle is 180 and that piece is 132, that would mean that 180 minus the 132 is going to give us that. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. 180 minus 132. And that gives us 48. So we have a piece of the angle we're looking for. Now, is there a vertical angle that can maybe help us find the other piece of the angle we're looking for? Yes, there is. Okay, I see that this right here, that right there creates that perfect X, which means we do have a vertical angle. Okay, so if this is one side of the vertical angle that's 62, that means that side is also 62. And now we have both pieces of our angles. We can just add them together. 62 plus 48. And I can just add those. And I get 110 degrees. So we know that the measure of angle YZW is 110 degrees. And there we go. Those are your notes. There is an assignment that goes with it.